think there's a lot of opportunities in terms of now the number of channels that you can actually go out to is immense, and it's brilliant, and it means you can reach a lot of different audiences.
It's just constantly changing, isn't it? And you have to keep up with that. You know, how we were sort of getting our brand across to the marketplace a couple of years ago is completely different to how we're doing it today.
So you've got to make sure you're out there using as many channels as you can, reaching as many people as you can, going out to as wider audience. So when people are looking to move, they think of your brand first and foremost, and you don't lose them in a very crowded talent marketplace.
Are you ready to unlock your organisation's potential in today's fiercely competitive job market? Do you want to attract and retain the best talent while fostering a diverse and inclusive workplace? You need to consider your employer brand. Candidates today are looking at more than just a job description. They're examining review websites, your social media presence, as well as your main website. One of the most alluring elements to modern job seekers is more than the salary and job perks, but the culture and ethos of the company they could potentially work for. This is Staffing Strategies Simplified, brought to you by NES Fircroft. In this podcast, we speak to Vicki Codd, Director of Marketing, and Janine Halliday, Global Talent Acquisition Director here at NES Fircroft. We'll discuss the importance of employer branding and how it goes beyond a recruitment tool to becoming the heart and soul of your organisation's identity. Discover how a well-crafted employer brand can transform your recruitment processes, magnetise top talent, showcase your diversity and inclusivity, and elevate your company's reputation as an employer of choice. So thanks, Vicki, for joining us here in Warrington, and Janine joining us remotely from Dubai. I'll jump straight into the first question that we've got, and so we can get started. And that's, can you share with us the importance of establishing a strong employer brand in today's competitive job market?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head of the question there, really. It is a really competitive market, and I think everyone's feeling the same pain. So you've got to make sure you're out there using as many channels as you can, reaching as many people as you can, going out to as wider audience. So when people are looking to move, they think of your brand first and foremost, and you don't lose them in a very crowded talent marketplace.
That's great. Thanks, Vicki. So I'll come to you, Janine, first with the next question. How can companies ensure their employer branding aligns with their business objectives and values?
Yeah, great question. And I think the important thing is linking in with marketing first to ensure that we're very mindful of the objectives and the values before starting any campaign. Don't try to tie them in later, because that's when the messaging becomes confused and a little bit problematic. So just agree a strong vision, a strong purpose before, and ensure that throughout any campaign, throughout any filming, any messaging, that it's consistent throughout. And again, prior to anything being released, to review it again and make sure that everything ties back to the original brief.
And I think it's just about, for me, being true to what your values are. It can be quite jarring if you have one set of values and then when people watch your material, it doesn't coincide, and they think, oh, does this company really know what they're about? Are they actually telling us a true story? If you're a health and safety company, for example, you probably wouldn't want to put videos out there of your staff bungee jumping. You've got to be true to your values. Otherwise, people just won't see you as genuine, and it can really jar with the audience.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you. And I think having that buy-in with the values and the core values and making sure that you're promoting that and expressing that in all of the content that you produce is really important. So I think you've reinforced that really well. So thank you. So the next question I've got is, how has the digital revolution impacted employer branding and recruitment marketing? And what opportunities does it present for organizations?
I think there's a lot of opportunities in terms of now the number of channels that you can actually go out to is immense, and it's brilliant, and it means you can reach a lot of different audiences. But I think you do have to be cognizant that the way they consume information has also changed. So particularly the younger generation, I know my daughter wants quick, snappy videos. She won't listen to a podcast that's longer than probably 15 minutes, if I'm honest. Everybody wants very quick information and they want to consume it quickly. And unfortunately, you've got to make an impact in a very short space of time, because they will log off very quickly, and they want things fast and on the channels that they like. So you've got to be as diverse as possible with your channel choices and as quick as possible with your messaging.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just constantly changing, isn't it? And you have to keep up with that. How we were sort of getting our brand across to the marketplace a couple of years ago is completely different to how we're doing it today. But from a talent acquisition perspective, it's really just allowed us to reach into a truly global platform, because we can showcase our company culture, our employee brand, and we can really target specific demographics to reach into the relevant candidates as well. So it's been an amazing opportunity for us, to have a truly mobile group of candidates that we can engage across multiple locations, which has been amazing. But really to just keep pace constantly, I think, is a challenge, but something that we've embraced.
I think you've got to be quick to get stuff out there. You've got to be quick to respond to events. I mean, I think we've all read about things that are happening in the world on X before we've seen it on the news now. So you've got to respond really quickly, and you've got to get your messages out there. And I say you just got to keep it punchy, because people's concentration spans and lives that are so busy that they don't want to sit and consume lots of long form information anymore.
Absolutely. And, relating back to a talent acquisition setting, to give an example of a recruitment program that we ran for Southeast Asia recently. We ran it across multiple channels, and the best response that we got was actually on TikTok. It was amazing, completely unprecedented. Within a week, I think about 500 responses. It just completely took over any other advertising channel that we had. So we go through the process with every location where we'll look and see what works, but that just really sparked something within us that we needed to be more prevalent over these channels. And like Vicki talked about earlier, those short, snappy videos that catch people's attention, that's what it's about. Catching people when they're on their mobile phone, they're scrolling away, rather than maybe the more traditional job adverts that we would have been a bit reliant on a few years ago.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you. And I think having that buy-in with the values and the core values, and making sure that you're promoting that and expressing that in all of the content that you produce is really important. So I think you've reinforced that really well. So thank you. So the next question I've got is, how has the digital revolution impacted employer branding and recruitment marketing? And what opportunities does it present for organizations?
Yeah, I think touching upon a point that Vicki raised earlier, it is being authentic, and being honest about the work environment, about the company culture. And I think some of our highest levels of success that we've had with our social media campaigns have been the videos that have been quite raw, very authentic, and you're giving people a true sense of who you are and what it's like to work here. And then obviously you're getting better results because people are seeing you exactly as you are and can perhaps imagine fitting in within that environment. And then consistency in messaging is really, really important. Again, it's just so important, like we've talked about before, to kind of have that clear goal and make sure that that's reiterated, consistent messaging all the way along throughout a campaign.
Yeah, and I think to just follow that, I think since COVID, we've all become a lot more informal. People work from home now. People come to the office in their jeans. People don't come into the office as much as they used to. So like Janine said, you've got to set the tone a little bit differently, and be a bit more fun, and be a bit less corporate, and be a bit less formal, and appeal to your audience. But also make sure you know your audience. Don't talk at them all the time about you. Find out what's interesting to them and actually communicate stuff that you think will be of interest to them. We've just released a women in energy study, for example, and one of the key takeouts from that was that women are interested in working for companies that have a clear net zero message and are working towards net zero. And when we asked them what their priorities were, that was the number one priority when looking for a job. So if you're trying to communicate to that group of people, don't focus on salary, for example, or don't focus on other things. Focus on the net zero messaging, because that's what they want to hear. Make it about them, not about you pushing your message all the time.
Thanks. Yeah, great. I think it's really important to stay on top of the platforms that candidates are using and how they're consuming this content. It changes so rapidly, especially like you say with TikTok and stuff, being a prevalent platform now and becoming bigger and bigger. I think that's a really important, one of our really important takeaways for this video. So my next question, I'll ask Janine first. How can companies create personalized and targeted recruitment marketing campaigns to reach the right candidates?
It's a great question. And I think, look, firstly, the target audience have got to be really, really well defined. So within talent acquisition, we would look at factors such as job title, location, industry and skills. And from there, you can create very tailored content and messaging to engage those individuals. And then once any target campaign has been put out there, then the analytics behind that is super important to analyse how those outreaches have gone. So the acceptance of in-mails or rejections, and then using those analytics to constantly tweak the communications or target audience. And also, I think, again, something that's really resonated quite strongly with us over the past year is acknowledging the increasing number of candidates who are using their smartphones to search for job roles. Our content has got to be really user-friendly, as does any application process. And that's something that we've been hugely mindful of as well.
And I think just to be conscious as well that people do consume information very quickly, as we've already covered. But so you've got to hit them probably more than once, and you've got to retarget them, and you've got to look at what was the best channel for that person. When did we get a hit there? What channel did they see our advert on? And then put the advert on other channels as well to make sure, because everybody consumes lots of different channels these days. I know I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook because I'm slightly older, and younger people are on TikTok and things like that. So make sure you're repeating your message. They're not going to immediately click and join your organization because they've seen one advert. You've got to use the data, like Janine said, and make sure that you're being clever about where you're placing your advert, and replace it until you encourage them to click through and go to the end of the funnel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that leads us on to our next question quite well, in terms of how we reach people and how we track how we reach people and how companies can do that as well. How can data and analytics be leveraged to measure the effectiveness of ROI and employer branding efforts?
I think really follow people, as I said, through the funnel right to the end. So see what they're clicking on. If they go to the website, there is technology now where you can see what pages people are visiting, what are your popular pages, where are people dropping off perhaps, and then maybe look at your web page and say, right, we need to change or improve that web page because that's where people are leaving us. And just make sure you use that data really cleverly to encourage people to go right through to, let's face it, what we all want, ultimately submitting a CV or an inquiry to find out more about our business. So we have to keep an eye on what pages are working, what channels are working, and where people are clicking, and also vitally where people are dropping out the funnel.
Absolutely. And I think, another completely free channel that we can use that's really important is also employee surveys that we do obviously annually, if not more, just to find out internally what is the perception of the brand. Again, completely free, but very effective and something that we use.
Thanks, Janine. Thanks, Vicki. So we've gone into a little bit of the techniques and tools that people can use. But just to kind of go into that in a little bit more detail and look at some of the specific examples, what advice would you give to small or medium-sized businesses with limited resources when it comes to creating their employer brand?
Well, I think we've touched on it earlier, but as we've said a couple of times now, be true to yourself, be true to your values, be true to what you stand for. And also A/B test when you're doing campaigns. Don't put all your money in one pot, go out into one channel, blow it all in 2 days and then go, that didn't work. Make smaller pots of budget. And a lot of the tools now have got very good background tools where you can set your budget for the day and you're not going to go over that budget. And once you've reached a certain number of clicks, that advert will stop and you won't have to spend lots of money. So do it in small pots and analyze the results and then look where your money is best placed and best spent. Don't use it all on one channel, all in 1 week.
And I think as well, if you look with every single country or every single region, there are quite a number of free channels that can be used, or at least low cost channels. When we're looking at a new location, for example, we'll analyse, we'll see what's out there, we'll ask for a trial, and quite often companies are happy to adhere to that, or at least you'll get better pricing for the first couple that you want to try. So that's also worth that. And we've also looked at upskilling our own individuals within my team, for example, so that we can be more self-sufficient with filming content. We've invested in some equipment. It's not as expensive as you think, so that any time we want to run a campaign, we're not necessarily having to engage an external agency or fly people over all the time. So that's been something that we've found really beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. And the equipment and the technology is becoming cheaper and easier to use. User-led content is doing better and better. It's the main thing that works on things like TikTok and stuff as well. So it really shows that you don't need a massive budget or huge technology or a lot of experience to be able to create content that will just work with people. So yeah, great. Thank you very much. So on the flip side of that then, what sort of common mistakes or pitfalls should companies avoid when implementing recruitment marketing strategies?
I think just being too broad, as we've said with your messaging, broad brush and only having one type of message and like we said, just putting it out once and blowing all your budget in one go. I think and also just talking about yourself too much and actually focus on, as we've said, what your audience wants to hear and possibly do different audiences, different messages, obviously different channels. You'll need different messages. You'll need different formats. Make sure you mapped out your audiences in the beginning and you're tailoring the messages to that audience. Don't just do one message, one audience, one channel. There's a lot of channels out there now, and really try and broaden your reach and look at more diverse and more inclusive channels.
Yeah, and Vicki, where I think our teams partner incredibly well is the review of that process. Like we said before, so we'll put a campaign out, and within the week we're already catching up together to saying how did that perform? Do we need to mix it up? Maybe that video didn't land well. Let's try a static advert instead. And so yeah, reviewing is just hugely important. And then to come back to one of our earlier points is just not evolving and not keeping up with the trends. Every year, every few months, there's going to be something different. There's going to be another channel that we need to be aware of, that we need to try. And again, it's investing in individuals who know how to use those well. So I think if you don't keep up with those trends, you're gonna miss an important demographic.
Yeah, I think that's really going to help our listeners. That's really good points and some really good advice there. So thank you. So my next question there is, over your respective careers, obviously you've been champions for diversity and inclusivity within the company, worked for many years to support those goals and those objectives within the company and make sure it keeps going. So based on your experiences, how can organizations foster diversity and inclusion through their employer branding?
Well, I think the obvious things are, make sure you're inclusive in your imagery that you use and the language that you use. We do have tools that check the language of our job adverts, for example, to make sure we're being as inclusive as possible. But just generally, if you're covering social events, for example, particularly in certain countries, don't have pictures of people drinking alcohol. Not everybody drinks. Not everyone wants to do that. You want to encourage as a wider audience as possible to engage with your brand. And if every picture you're putting out there is just people drinking down the pub, you might think that's a great night out. However, that won't attract everyone to your company. So just make sure you're being as broad and inclusive as possible with your messaging and with your imagery.
Yeah. And showcase the diverse talent that you have. And obviously we've got huge diversity within NES Fircroft. So, it's looking at any interviews, any videos, any case studies that we do have of individuals that come from different backgrounds and different cultures to celebrate that success. And something that we've constantly reviewed is to look at our recruitment processes themselves to make sure that they're fair, they're equitable. We're avoiding any stereotypes, any unconscious bias, and that's always something that we will be continuously reviewing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really good way to do it, is to have people involved within the organization who are constantly involved with the evolution of your diversity and inclusivity policies and procedures and the content, and that it's being constantly reviewed and updated to current standards and current expectations. So you're always reacting to the audience in a positive way and their feedback and stuff. I think that's really great. Thank you. So the last question we've got today, I'll start with you, Janine. What resources, tools, or courses would you recommend for individuals or businesses looking to improve their recruitment marketing skills and knowledge?
I think for myself and what I encourage my immediate team to do, and I know is very prevalent in the sales team as well, is networking. Joining those professional groups, attending any conferences where they're going to be like-minded individuals, any workshops, just connecting with all the professionals that you can. From our side, if we come across a really talented individual, perhaps we don't have a job role for them immediately, but we're really interested to keep them within our network, discuss market conditions, share knowledge where we can, and keep those candidates warm. So not courses as such, but network. That's what it's all about for us.
And there are a lot of free courses and free tools you can use these days. I know Google offers quite a lot. You can always find a lot of free training on YouTube, for example, and things like that. But as Janine said, the best way you can learn and pick up things is from your colleagues and from networking and from that wider industry. So yeah, talk to as many people as possible and ask for help. And people do love to get involved, and particularly with videos and things like that. Some people might be nervous, but give it a go and encourage people to give things a try. And some of our most popular videos are actually, as Janine said earlier, not the formal ones where we sit down and talk to camera. It's people walking along and just having the camera in front of their face and doing a quick 10-second video about what they're doing that day. And people are interested in that. People are interested in people. So, take advantage of that and give things a go and learn from your colleagues.
Brilliant. Thank you. Some really great information today. Lots of takeaways, lots of really great advice for our listeners and our viewers to digest. So we'll stop there, and I'll say thank you, Vicki, for joining us today in Warrington, and thank you, Janine, for joining from Dubai.
Thank you for having us.
This has been Staffing Strategies Simplified, with me, Matt Nicholson, and our guests, Vicki Codd and Janine Halliday. We hope you've enjoyed this episode and its many important takeaways. If you'd like to learn more about how NES Fircroft can support your recruitment journey, why not visit our website at www.nesfircroft.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram and TikTok for more content like today's episode. Thanks for watching and listening.